Well, ask and ye shall receive, or something like
Maybe.
that. Hi, everybody. We're here again in
Yay.
Genesis. I think we left off on what was it, 20?
Yeah, I think we're on 21 this week, right when Isaac is born.
Yeah, sounds all right.
Believe so.
I'll try to
Okay.
talk less so you don't have to listen to nasal.
It basically sounds the same over the microphone. That's fine.
That's horrible.
It's okay, Peter. We love you anyways.
For
We
now.
all have our shortfalls. All right. So before we get into it, I just wanted to kind of discuss quickly a couple things that we had discussed, like not on the podcast, that we discussed previously collectively as a group. And that was, we had discussed maybe doing prayers for people. And there's a couple of different ways to go about it. I think for the time being, I think we said that, like at the tail end of the podcast, what we're going to go do we'll say some prayers or just pray for people as requested, or maybe if we know anybody that has that's going through a rough time or something, and we can offer prayer for them as well. And eventually, as we have people maybe send us comments asking for prayers, maybe they're going through a rough time, they don't know who, maybe they don't have people in their environment that are, they're not Christian, or they don't have easy access to a church group or something along those lines. And we're happy to. I'm happy to. I'm not an expert prayer by any stretch of the imagination, but I am more than happy to pray for people in in uh in a in my pathetic manner. But I figure something's better than nothing, right? So yeah, we'll probably add a couple minutes on the tail end of the episode just to do like a prayer group type thing, just to pray for people who are maybe going through hardships or whatever the case may be. And then if that gets to a point where it's taking time away from the rest, or growing the podcast to an overly large format, maybe we'll just break that out into like once a month or something like that, or more frequently if necessary, maybe a separate recording, and either to replace one of the, a weekly podcast, or if necessary, maybe we'll do a 15-minute recording here or there as necessary. So yeah, that was about it. We're gonna have some scheduling conflicts here coming up over the next month in May. Here, there's gonna be probably a couple times where we can't meet at the same time that we normally would, but I think we may have rescheduled. So, but just as a heads up, we might have 2 or 3 this month instead of the full 4. It's hard to. Well, we'll see how it goes. Do you guys have anything to cover?
Nope.
I don't think so. I think you kind of hit it all.
Cool. All right. So I think we'll aim and see if we can get to chapter 30. We'll see how that goes. Oh, that's the other thing I want to talk about too, is we had a comment in particular that I think Nick addressed, but essentially it revolved around our shorts. And that's really just, because of the nature of a short video format for like reels and YouTube shorts and that sort of thing. Usually their budget is about less than a minute, give or take. And so because of that, we lose some context and things that are discussed or what's the word, clarified after something is said or after the video. So if you ever see something that is like questionable in one of our short videos, feel free to jump in and take a look at the full video. Obviously, not everybody has time to sit through an hour-long video, but you should be able to fast forward through them at 2 times speed or even faster. Just try and find the spot where you're looking for additional clarification. And this isn't just a ploy to get more views on the long format videos. Really, just like or just ping us and ask questions like this gentleman did. I think he had concern that I was interpreting something too literal, and so there was some disconnect. Which after I got done speaking, both Nick and Peter got on board and were like, "Well, establishment of the church kind of superseded the. I can't remember the exact topic. I think it was the blessing of Israel."
Yeah, but basically, Israel later on in the New Testament gets transferred to the Church of Christ rather than the actual ethnic group of Israelites.
Right. And we also, in addition to that, I think I commented that, it's not like, and above all of that, we were instructed to love everybody, not just the people that we agree with, right? So that's part of it too. It's kind of hand in hand, tangentially related at least. So yeah, so if things like that come up and you're like, whoa, this doesn't sound right, chances are I was just being lazy and didn't do a good job editing the shorts or something along those lines. Take a look at the video or just comment on the short and be like, hey, and then we'll go back and look at the video and say, hey, at this time, go to minute, like in this case, it was like go from minute 4 to 6 and it covers the whole thing instead of just the 55 seconds of me blathering on. So,
Yeah, and I think we tried to discuss possibly keeping that more, doing some of that work in our description of the shorts as well. So look for that too. I'm not saying we're going to be able to do that for everyone, just with editing time and all the things.
right.
But that could be in there. And then obviously keep on throwing out the comments too, because it's not like we have everything figured out either. So,
Right. I'll be the first one to admit that I'm retarded. I like I read things and I jump to conclusions and I do stuff like that all the time, and Nick or Peter will bring me back in and whatever, it's like I sometimes I get too excited and I just, leap at the first thing that jumps to my brain.
Well, like we've
And
mentioned in the past, the Bible references itself all the time. So it's a very complex document. So, like in the case of that particular issue, like at the time in Genesis, where God blesses Israel, like at that point, Israel is both a person and like the nation group that, are his descendants. But like you have to get like, hundreds and hundreds of pages deeper until you get to Galatians before Paul specifies that now everyone who is a follower of Christ and in the church is now of the seed of Abraham. So
right.
it's very easy not to have all the answers because it's a big book and it references itself a lot and it's pretty complex.
Absolutely. And I'll be perfectly honest, I don't think I've ever read the Old Testament and New Testament straight through. It's like I'll read this bit and then I'll read that bit and then you know what I mean? Like it's very, I don't think I've ever read it from cover to cover. I think it's basically just ad hoc. Now I think the Old Testament I've probably read most of the way through, or at least several books. I'm pretty sure I've read all the way through. But yeah, so and then it's been a number of years since I've done that even. So this is sometimes I get lost in the weeds, guys. We all do, and I apologize if I make a mistake. But call me out on it. That's what we're all here for. Is we're going to learn and grow.
It's literally what we're the whole point of the podcast is to study the Bible so we know more about it.
Right. Yep, absolutely. All right. So let's jump right into Genesis 21 then. Essentially, I believe this kicks off with Isaac being born.
but yeah, so I'll just kind of start from the beginning at Genesis 21. I'm reading out of the ESV. So verse 1 begins, "The Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did to Sarah as he had promised. Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age at the time of which God had spoken to him. Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, God has made laughter for me. Everyone who hears will laugh over me. And she said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham had a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, laughing. So she said to Abraham, cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not be heir with my son Isaac. And the thing was very displeasing to Abraham on account of his son. But God said to Abraham, be not displeased because of the boy and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you. For through Isaac shall your offspring be named, and I will make a nation of the son of the slave woman also, because he is your offspring. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder. along with the child, and sent her away. She departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water skin was gone, she put the child under one of the bushes. Then she went and sat down opposite of him a good way off, about a distance of a bow shot. For she said, "Let me not look on the death of my child, or of the child." And she sat opposite of him. She lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the boy. And the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What troubles you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Lift up the boy, and hold him fast with your hand, for I will make him into a great nation." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy, and he grew up. He lived in the wilderness and became an expert with the bow. He lived in the wilderness of Paran. His mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt.
Egypt, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, basically we got Isaac is born, and then Sarah like still jealous of Hagar, right? So complains to Abraham, and Abraham's like, "Well, he's my son. I don't want to get rid of him." But God says, "It's okay. I'll take care of him. He's, it'll be fine." And so yeah, obviously they went out and they ran out of water, as it happens in the desert. But God provided, thankfully. Yeah. So, and then I'll give you a little break here. I'll pick up here. It says, so what version are you reading out of? New
The
International?
ESV.
ESV.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be reading out of the New American Standard, so the wording might be a little different, but bear with me. This is actually, I'm reading this right out of the BibleProject.com, same place that we're using the study guide from. So I figured it's convenient. It's right there. I'll use it, see how it goes. So starting with verse 22 here, we have, now it came that at the time that Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, spoke to Abraham, saying, "God is with you in all that you do. Now therefore swear to me here by God that you will not deal falsely with me or my offspring, or with my posterity, but according to the kindness that I've shown you, shall show you shall show to me into the land in which you have sojourned." Abraham said, "I swear it." But Abraham complained to Abimelech because of the well of water which the servants of Abimelech had seized. And Abimelech said, "I do not know who has done this thing to you. You did not tell me, nor did I hear of it until today." Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech, and the two of them made a covenant. Then Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. Abimelech said to Abraham, "What do these 7 ewe lambs mean, which you have set by themselves?" He said, "You shall take these 7 ewe lambs from my hand, so that it may be a witness to me that I dug this well." Therefore he called that place Beersheba, because there the two of them took an oath. So they made a covenant at Beersheba, and Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, arose and returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree at Beersheba, there and he called the name of the Lord, the everlasting God, and Abraham sojourned in the land of the Philistines for many days. So basically, they entered into a covenant between Abimelech and Abraham, saying that, that I don't know if they're talking about the land as well, but basically it's like, "Hey, I dug this land. You guys keep stealing all my wells or filling them in," although we haven't really talked about that yet, but so it's like, let's make a covenant. I'll give you some U, and I'll give you these 7 U, and you make a decree basically saying that this is my well, leave it alone. Or at least that's my interpretation of it.
Yeah, the well digging, from what I've done for research in this, was essentially that. It was a sign of your claim to that land. I don't know exactly if there was like borders or parameters that would cover of, X amount of distance, whatever,
Right.
however they measured it.
376 cubits. It's probably not nearly enough, but yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, we
Wasn't it?
see later chapters.
Yeah, I think a cubit's like close to a meter.
Yeah.
Roughly, yeah. But yeah, we see later chapters that I believe it was the Philistines, maybe it wasn't. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but they kept on filling in all these different wells.
Yeah. I think that
and basically,
was it Isaac or Esau?
I think
One of the two.
it might have been
Because they
Isaac.
kept on moving from spot to spot to spot, digging
Yeah,
wells, then somebody would fill them in, and it's like, really?
yeah, he had to dig like 3 different wells basically, or redug 2 wells and then dug a new one for them or something. Some ridiculous
Yeah.
thing.
We'll get to it.
Yeah,
All right, so Genesis 22, this is basically the kickoff of God asking Abraham to sacrifice Isaac.
fun chapter.
And so this is you know,
This
a
is a
little on the
go-to
heavier side.
chapter. Yeah, this is a go-to chapter for a lot of atheists to go to. Is the Old Testament God is evil,
Well,
You
except
obviously
for he
didn't read the whole
stopped him.
chapter then.
right?
Right.
Well, they never do. They just like
They pull
cherry
out the
pick
one
stuff.
part. Yep. Oh yeah.
Right. All right. So now it came about after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, Here I am. He said, Take now your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering at one of the mountains of which I will tell you. So Abraham, I mean, can you imagine waking up one day and God's just like, I want you to take your son. You're gonna go to this place. I'll tell you later, but you're gonna go to this place, and you're gonna burn him alive.
Well,
Yep.
You're like,
he doesn't just say that. He even rubs it in more by saying, "Take your only son, whom you
yeah,
love, and go there
right,
and burn him."
One, I just love the connection of that to obviously this is a perfect connection to Jesus and what he does and obviously we understand that as we read more through the story, but
yeah.
just the way that
But
that's
yeah,
described.
this is like the first time, right? The like the sacrifice. You're gonna sacrifice your only son, whom you love, and because I command it, basically. And then but then the the little bait and switch at the end. We'll get to it. All right. So Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son. And he split wood for the burnt offering and arose and went to the place which God had told him. On the 3rd day, Abraham raised his eyes and saw the place from a distance, which coincidentally, there's speculation that it was where this happened. And I don't have all the details. I don't have the receipts, but it was not Wes Huff. Who was it?
I think I know what you're talking about. Josh Howerton, I think, talks about
Yes,
it.
Josh Howerton. He thinks that this happened at the same place that Jesus was crucified. Like he went into
That would
detail.
make sense.
He went into detail about it, and that would also depict how it's so observable, how he knows where he's supposed to go when he sees it, is because it's like the mountain looks like, or underneath the plateau or something looks like it's skull shaped or something like that, or has the appearance of being a skull.
Yep. Yeah, that little short is a very interesting. I've only seen the short. I'm sure he has he goes a lot more into it on his podcast, but
Yeah,
it was very
his
interesting.
podcasts are very good. I really like them. I also I like him as a pastor. I think he does a good job, which is something that I never thought I'd say about somebody who is the head pastor for a mega church. But I
He seems, from what I've been able to tell, I haven't like watched a sermon of his or even watched a full podcast episode of his. I've just seen a lot of his shorts, but he seems like the most like down to earth, biblically sound mega church pastor that I know of. So it is nice and refreshing.
yeah, I dig it. I watch his stuff all the time, and I've watched his sermons. They're good. The podcasts are basically just deep dives of his sermons. So like he only has an hour for a sermon, right? So he uses the podcast to kind of dive deeper into the subject matter and he brings more receipts and stuff, and gives more evidence of his
That makes
the
sense.
of his, I don't want to say theory, but his interpretation of what's going on. He also obviously touches on, popular subjects at the time and breaks them down too. But let's see here. Where were we? Okay, here. On the 3rd day, Abraham raised his eyes and saw the place from a distance. Abraham said to his young men, Stay here with the donkey, and I and the lad will go over there, and we will worship and return to you. Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son, and he took in his hand the fire and the knife. And so the 2 of them walked together. Isaac spoke to Abraham his father and said, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. And he said, Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Abraham said, God will provide for himself the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. So the two of them walked on together. Then they came to a place of which God had told him, and Abraham built the altar there and arranged the wood, and bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. He said, Do not stretch out your hand against the lad, and do nothing to him, for now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Then Abraham raised his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the place of his son. Abraham called the name of that place, The Lord will provide, as it is said to this day, In the mount of the Lord it will be provided. Then the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, By myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only son. Indeed, I will greatly bless you, and I will multiply your seed as the stars of the heavens and as the sands of which is on the seashore. And your seed shall possess the gate of their enemies. In your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his young men, and they arose and went together to Beersheba. And Abraham lived in Beersheba, or at Beersheba. Now it came about after these things that it was told Abraham, saying, Behold, Milcah also has borne children to your brother Nahor. Uz, his firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Kemuel, the father of Aram, and Chesed and Hazo of Pildash, and Jalaph and Bethuel. Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. These Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother. His concubines, whose name were Meruma, also born Taba and Gam, and Tahash and Maacah. I probably butchered those names terribly, but forgive me.
That's all right.
So yeah, that's that. In my opinion, that's one of the heaviest stories in Genesis, other than like maybe Adam and Eve. But it's one of those things where it's like, as a father, I I couldn't. I'm not sure I could do it. I'll be perfectly honest. Like if man, it'd be hard to sacrifice one of my kids like that and to do it faithfully without talking back. Like Abraham, all of them talk back and want to bargain about everything. But the minute it's his son, he just, no,
Yeah,
that's
I think
rough.
it plays in it's definitely a tough thing going through another Bible study with some family friends, and my wife and I are kind of heading it up with them. They asked us to lead it, and we're going through John MacArthur's 52 Weeks Through the Bible, and we're not going that quick through it because that's insane. But it starts out in
Fast.
Genesis. Yeah, the first week you were supposed to read Genesis 1 through 36. It was a lot. So we just went over and talked about this, and one of the questions he asked is, could you do what Abraham did and offer your son up as a sacrifice? And I would like to say that I would be able to do that, but I really don't think I could. At least not in the sense that he did it. Now, if you think about it too, like Abraham is over 100 at this point, and there's another way that I looked at it is he already saw the blessing that God provided him of his son Isaac when both him and Sarah didn't really believe. Abraham at first didn't, and then eventually did did believe the Lord.
So that reinforcement.
I think that is part of why it was maybe easier for him. I'm not saying it was easy by any means. I think there's a lot of things that are not necessary that happened that aren't necessarily written down in the Bible because it's not things that we necessarily need to know. Because it looks like here, like from verse 2 to 3, Abraham is presented this of go and offer your son as a sacrifice, and then Abraham's
Okay.
like, "Yep, we're gonna do that," and like it maybe happened that way. Also maybe didn't, and like it just wasn't recorded because it's not beneficial. So like I'm not saying either way if it was or wasn't that way, but it's just amazing to think about. I think knowing that God already provided him and answered his prayers essentially once, that even if Abraham had to do this, he knew the Lord would be faithful to him in whatever the outcome was in the long run.
I think this shows, like you said, how strong Abraham's faith was. He'd already witnessed God provide
Faith
him
and
with a
trust.
miracle to provide him with Isaac in the first place when he and Sarah were both very old. So at that point, I'm guessing his mindset was probably either what happened was going to happen and that God would provide an alternate, or maybe he thought, if I sacrifice him, God will just resurrect him, because that's perfectly within his capability as
Yeah.
well. And
If
I
you're gonna
think,
make
like, the
like
other
a
thing, the whole purpose, I think, or one of the purposes of this story is to, like you said, it's an allusion to Jesus later on, and it's to, like, demonstrate what a huge sacrifice and what a hard thing this is to do, to the point where, MacArthur had the question, would you be capable of it? I agree with you. I think most people probably would not be. Like, I'm not a father, but, like, if I had a kid, I don't think I would be able to just stab him and, sacrifice him, even if God asked me to do it.
yeah.
I'm I'm not sure I would be capable of doing that.
Well, especially modern us, because if you think about it, like let's be fair, most of us are softer than our predecessors, and in a lot of ways. Like, like I get sentimental with animals. Like I get attached to animals, and like even hunting. I can hunt. I find it difficult though. Like it's not an easy thing for me. Like I have to build myself up to go hunting because just taking life in general feels so alien to me that it almost, it's just I have to gird myself to do it, even though it's to feed my family. And I know it's not inherently wrong to do it. It's just
That's
taking the
why
life of something is something that I don't do consistently or have ever done consistently. So it's difficult.
that's why God made deer so dumb, so that, it'd be easier.
Right.
One the other
It's
thing
true.
about this story that kind of a little off topic from what we're currently talking about, but still in the story, that has always been interesting to me once I found out about it. Again, this isn't like Isaac isn't, like a 9-10 year old little boy. Like it's understood that he's anywhere roughly between like teenage years to like maybe early 20s ish. And then like so you've had all this time with him too to like raise him and spend all this time. And then the faithfulness in Isaac to just not necessarily blindly follow your dad, but he brings up the point of like, where is our sacrifice lamb? And then again, it could be another one of those things where it's not recorded, but Abraham answers like God will provide for himself what he needs. And Isaac's like, okay, like whatever.
Now, is that faith in your father and in God, or is it because he was a little inbred?
I mean, it could be all of the above. But yeah, like that thought. And then I can't imagine being Isaac in that moment. Like you get up to the mountain, you've trekked at least 3 days, if not a little bit more, like maybe another day or so, because he told the two other men to stay back with the donkeys or whatever. And they go up to the mountain, they build the altar, they're putting the wood down for the burnt offering, and then Abraham starts to bind you over the pile of wood. And
Right.
like, again,
Son, put your hand behind your back, huh?
yeah, like, again, it's not recorded, so who knows if there was like a conversation, a back and forth that was had between them, but
You have to imagine there's some
you
words
would think,
exchange there.
like,
Or if it
Hey,
got into
Dad,
a
what's
tussle.
going on?
yeah.
Why are you
Isaac's
holding
like,
a knife? Why am I tied up?
no thanks.
And then just like,
Abraham
not to
had
have the
to beat him
self-preservation,
down.
like you're a young, like 20 something, maybe 30 at the most, like you could have definitely overpowered your 100+ year old dad to
Well, the other thing to
not
look
let
at
him do it.
too there is I don't know about anybody else, but I was probably the stupidest I'd ever been in my late teens. You have these wild notions about life and everything when you are, like you're 8 foot tall and bulletproof when you're 18 years old, and you have the wisdom of a stick. Now I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say they had a rougher life, so they probably gained more wisdom more quickly, maybe, than we do in modern days. And note wisdom, not necessarily information, right? So, but yeah, can you imagine being that age and in your late teens or early 20s and just submitting to your father like that? I can't.
Yeah, no.
I'd be like, screw you, old man. I'm out of here. You think I'm gonna
Well,
die for
I'm
this?
gonna put you on the altar. Like
it's not
you know?
always about youth and strength. You can't underestimate age and
The
treachery.
wily old man.
Yeah, sometimes the old people can be like, "Hey, what's that over there, son?" And then, quickly knock them over the head and tie them
Beat
up.
you over the head with a rock.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always been so interesting to me, like, once I've gained that understanding of more about the story of, like, just that faithfulness in general, that is perceived at least, obviously, and I'm sure there was conversations that had happened during it. But yeah, it's just been
Well, there almost had to be at some level, right?
yeah.
But, like, I think at the end of the day, it just really shows faith. And but we don't know. We don't know if Abraham went when they got up there and it was like, I'm sorry, Isaac, but you're the sacrificed and you have to submit to the Lord. And Isaac was just like, okay. You know what I
I think
mean?
I think another thing that it shows is the how much God actually does love us too, because he did ask Abraham to do this, but he didn't actually make him follow through. Later on, when Jesus is like praying literal tears of blood in Gethsemane, he asks if this cup can be passed from him, if there's any way for it, and there wasn't. So he went through with it when he had to for our
Yep.
sake because he
Yep.
loved us that much.
Yeah, and that's in the grand scheme of things, if you ever question, and it would be very difficult for me to question this, but I understand there's some people that are new to things may question it or have concerns or whatever. And if you question whether or not God loves us, first of all, he hasn't smitten us all yet, and we certainly have deserved it. I mean, there's a point in time that we just kind of discussed, not last week, the week before, or whatever. It's like he took about just about everybody on Earth once. It's certainly within his power to do it again, or just be done with us altogether. But he didn't. He sent his only begotten Son here to first teach us and then pay a sacrifice that's almost unimaginable for us, so that we can redeemed and we don't have to spend eternity in the pit. Um, or to give us a chance at least for those of us that don't sabotage ourselves. Um, so like if just imagine doing that for somebody that you love. Would you sacrifice your only child to save anybody? You know,
Yeah.
let
Probably
alone
not.
everybody.
Yeah. Well,
So
and
that
that's the
just
greatest thing about what John 3:16 says. Like, it is for all of us. And then you get
right.
into Romans 5:8, where he did it. He sacrificed himself for us while we were still sinners. Like,
Yeah.
before I came to Christ, before any of us came to Christ, before we were even born, obviously, like, he knew and was willing to do that for every single person on this earth.
Yeah, I can't if I had, I don't know, guys, I can't think about it too hard or I get all weepy, but like I can't even imagine. It's just it's really tough for me to think through because you have to care about somebody very, very deeply to go through those things. And willingly. Like he didn't want to, but he did it anyways for us. And that's such a remarkable thing that nobody else would do.
When you think about like the pettiness of man, you could imagine that if we had God's power and we were in the same situation with Isaac and Abraham, we would probably be like, well, I'm going to have to go through it later. So you're going to actually have to go through it. Maybe I'll
Right.
resurrect him after the case, but you're still going to have to stab him. And it's like,
Right.
he's like, you know what? Hold on, stop. Here's a ram,
Right.
sacrifice that instead.
I don't want you to have to go through what I'm gonna have to go through later just
Right.
because I love you and I don't wish that upon anybody. Now that's not to say that it hasn't and wouldn't happen. I'm sure that there's, as a matter of fact, I think at some point we get into the child sacrifice pieces of was it what place was that where they would throw their babies in the copper.
The Moloch worshippers.
Yeah, those guys.
Yeah.
Like I mean, so there's obviously people that do some very grotesque things, but there's a difference. That they don't do that out of love.
When they
They
don't
do
believe
that
in the Lord.
right,
They're doing
exactly.
that because they're worshiping a demon. That's why they're
Yeah.
doing
Right,
that.
right. Okay. Now that I cleared out the cobwebs. All right, so now in Genesis 23, I think we start getting into this is where Sarah dies. And I don't know that we necessarily need to go through it all bit by bit, but essentially Abraham goes and he talks to who was it?
Heth.
The sons of Heth.
The sons of Heth, yeah.
And
Actually,
it
yeah, it
wasn't
doesn't
Hittites.
give you the specific one. It just says sons of Heth.
Yeah, that's true. Ephron. He talked to Ephron.
Yeah, that's the one
And
who he
purchased.
buys the.
Yeah, so Ephron was like, "Hey, no, just take it. You can have it. What's some silver between us?" And Abraham was very like, "No, I will pay you for it. How much do you want?" "No, no, it's fine. It's fine. Bury your dead." And Abraham is like, "No. How much is it worth? I will pay you for it."
Yeah,
And then and so Ephron's fine like what is it like 40 silver or something like that?
400 shekels of silver.
Yeah, 400 shekels of silver. And then but you don't have to pay that. Abraham's like, "Here, yes I do." And then yeah, so basically there's there's the tomb at the one end of the field, and they transferred the deed, and Abraham buried Sarah, his wife, yeah, at the field of, I don't know how to pronounce that, Machpelah,
Yeah,
facing
it's something like
Mamre.
that.
That is
That's as good as
Hebron.
I'm going to do.
Yeah. And so that's basically Genesis 23 is the sad
She
death
was
of his wife.
127.
Which means
Yeah,
Abraham's about 140-ish.
right. Yep,
It's wild.
And
right.
also,
And he lives to like what 175 or something like that.
I think it's
Isaac would
close
have been
to that.
37-ish at that time, too, I think.
Yes, I
Because she
believe
was
you're
about
right.
90 when she had him.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he's 40 when he gets married, if I remember right.
Yeah, that's
And
the next
obviously
chapter.
Abraham's still alive at that point.
Yep.
So Genesis 24, yeah. So we got okay. So we're going to summarize a lot of this, but I'll read the first part here. It's now Abraham was old, advanced in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in every way. Abraham has said to his servants, the oldest of his household, who had charge of all that he owned, "Please place your hand under my thigh." Now, this confused me. The first time I read it, I'm like, why? Is he going to pick you up? What's going on here? But I think it was like similar to a handshake, an agreement, right?
Yeah, it comes up a lot in the next few chapters, and it's
Yeah, it's some sort of like
a custom
a
of the time.
yeah.
Right.
I think it's like the equivalent of a handshake, like you said.
And I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of the heavens and the God of the earth, that you shall not take a wife for my son from my daughters, from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I live, but you will go to my country and to my relatives and take a wife for my son Isaac. The servant said to him, "Suppose the woman is not willing to follow me to this land. Should I take your son back to the land from where you came?" Then Abraham said to him, "Beware that you do not take my son back there. The Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my birth, and who spoke to me who swore to me, saying, 'To your descendants I will give this land,' he will send his angel before you, and you will take a wife for my son from there. But if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be free from this my oath. Only do not take my son back there." So the servant placed his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. Then the servant took 10 camels from the camels of his master, and set out with a variety of good things of his master's in his hand. And he rose and went to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. He made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of water at evening time, the time when women go out to draw water. He said, "O Lord, the God of my master Abraham, please grant me success today, and show loving kindness to my master Abraham. Behold, I am standing by the spring, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Now may it be that the girl to whom I say, 'Please let down your jar so that I may drink,' and who answers, 'Drink, and I will water your camels also,' may she be the one whom you have anointed for your servant Isaac. And by this I will know that you have shown loving kindness to my master." So basically, after that, everything that he prays for happens, comes out. Who is let's see, Rebecca was born to Bethuel and the son of Milcah, the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor, and basically everything he says, she does. And so he gave her a gold ring worth half a shekel, and 2 bracelets for her wrists weighing 10 shekels in gold. Asked who she basically, who she was. And then she told them that she's the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, and said to him that they had plenty of room and straw, and you can come stay with us. It's fine. And then afterwards, or after this discussion, then the man bowed his head low and worshipped the Lord. He said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his loving kindness and his truth toward my master. As for me, the Lord has guided me in a way to the house of my master's brothers." So then Rebecca goes and tells everybody at her mother's household what had just happened. And then they meet, and then they bring the servant there. The servant basically tells them everything that led up to that point again. Just said, "Hey, this is what my master said. This is what I did. I came here, prayed. Rebecca did exactly what I prayed and asked for, and here we are." Let's see here. So now, if you're going to deal kindly and truly with my master, tell me. And if he's asking, he's like, "Are you going to let Rebecca marry my master or not? And if not, let me know that I may turn to the right hand or left." And then Laban and Bethuel replied, "The matter comes from the Lord, so we cannot speak to you bad or good. Here is Rebecca before you. Take her and go, and let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has spoken." And when Abraham's servant heard the words, he bowed himself to the ground before the Lord. The servant brought out articles of silver and articles of gold and garments and gave them to Rebekah, and also gave precious things to her brother and to her mother. And then he and the men who were with him ate and drank and spent the night. And when they arose in the morning, he said, "Send me away to my master." But the brother and her mother said, "Let the girl stay with us for a few days, say 10. Afterwards she may go." He said to them, "Do not delay me, since the Lord has prospered my way. Send me away that I might go to my master." And they said, "We will call the girl and consult her wishes." Then they called Rebekah and said to her, "Will you go with this man?" And she said, "I will go." Thus they sent away their sister Rebekah and her nurse with Abraham's servant and his men. They blessed Rebekah and said to her, "May you, our sister, become thousands of 10,000s, and may your descendants possess the gates of those who hate them." Then Rebekah arose with her maids, and they mounted the camels and followed the man. So the servant took Rebekah and departed. Now Isaac had come from going to Beer Laharoy, for he was living in the Negev. Isaac went out to meditate in the field toward the evening, and he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, the camels were coming. Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she dismounted from her camel. She said to the servant, "Who is this man who walking in the field to meet us?" And the servant said, "He is my master." Then she took her veil and covered herself. The servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Thankfully, we don't have to read it a third time. Then Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, and he took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. Thus Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. So, all kinds of good stuff there.
One thing I'd like to point out is that basically the same blessing that Rebecca gets is the same equivalent to the blessing that Isaac got from the angel of the Lord after the substitute sacrifice.
Yeah, the difference being is the may your descendants possess the gate of those who hate them. I think it was worded differently, wasn't it?
It's pretty close. Hold on.
It's like it was enough for me to notice when I was reading, but it was, you know what I mean? It was like,
Blessing, I will bless you, and multiplying, I will multiply your descendants as the stars of the heaven and as the sand which is on the seashore, and your descendants shall possess the gate of your enemies.
oh, okay, so it's possess the gate of your enemies, not the gate of those who hate you or
It's
them.
pretty close. It's
It's
not the
it's
exact.
close. I remember going, this is like a parallel. Then I'm like, but the wording is just a little different.
It's just paraphrase, basically.
Right.
I'd
Right.
be interested to, obviously, I don't speak Hebrew, so I'm not sure exactly how different they are in the original Hebrew,
That's tough.
Well,
right?
it's fine. It's fine. You got lots of time on your hands. You are probably the best person suited to this task. I task upon you to learn Hebrew so that you may interpret for us.
I couldn't learn Spanish, much
I've been
less
going
Hebrew.
through Hebrew on Duolingo, and man, is it hard.
Yeah, I bet.
It's a lot. And the sentences are backwards. It's weird.
Yeah. I struggle with new languages. It's not great either.
I
I
know.
learn greetings and then I go, okay, I'm done.
I barely know English, much less Hebrew or any other language.
That's fair. So what I'm hearing is that we need a Jewish friend to join us on the podcast that can teach us these words.
Well, technically, it's a dead language because I don't think modern Hebrew is like ancient Hebrew.
I don't believe so, no.
So
No.
I don't think it.
Well, I just know that they still read their texts in Hebrew, right?
If they're like super Orthodox, I think probably.
Is it just Orthodox Jews that do that?
That'd be my guess. I
I
actually
don't know.
I don't know.
I've
Now we're making
I've met
assumptions.
ethnic
Right.
Jews. I don't think I've ever met a practicing Jewish person.
It'd
don't
be
think.
like the equivalent of like the Latin Mass Catholics would be if they only read the Torah in the original Hebrew. But I have
Right.
no idea.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some pastors that really get into it. Like for instance, we were just talking about him. What Josh
Howerton.
Howerton? Yeah, yeah. Like he dabbles. I think because he figures out enough how to translate like certain things. Wes Huffington, that's his last name. Huffington, is that
It's
right?
just Huff.
It's just tough.
Just Huff. Where am I getting the rest of this? I do this to people's names all the time. I just add like 6 syllables into their
It is
name. Just like,
hilarious, though.
no, Huff is too short. We need to. But anyways,
Unfortunately, he's dead, but Michael Heiser was really good for that too. He was learned ancient Hebrew and Greek,
So
I
I
could
have a
like read
really
all the
cool
source documents.
tool that I got for my wedding that a friend of ours from our church gave Sheridan and I as a gift, but it's called the Keyword Bible. And what it does is it has the full Old Testament, New Testament in it, but there's certain words that will be underlined and there's like a whole key on how to figure it out. But in the back of the Bible itself, it has 2 different dictionaries in it, one for Old Testament and one for New Testament. And it'll look up, there'll be certain words that they looked up, what the Greek for the New Testament and then the Hebrew for the Old Testament, what it means and like the translation and all the things about it. It's really neat, super nice.
Yeah, I think my
so
mom
like
had one of those Bibles too, which is pretty cool.
so like this would be just a ginormous undertaking, but imagine having one digitized with where they're all like hyperlinks. So like you're reading through the Bible and you go, huh, I wonder what the actual word was in Hebrew that they used this. And you could click on it, it'll bring you over and it'll just say, okay, so this is the Hebrew word that they used. This is the meaning. These are the other places in the Bible where this word is used, so you can use it to, compare. That would be really cool.
So if you go to blueletterbible.org, they actually will have all of the text in the original Hebrew and the original Greek. I don't know if it has the connections between where it's used like multiple times, but you can look at the actual original text, how it was written in that sense, and see the sentence structure and all the things. So it kind of something like that.
Yeah, because I see people do that. Like I'll be watching a video and they'll be like, okay, so the Greek word that they used in this particular text was this. And we know it doesn't mean this because it's used in a different way. That word is used over here and it means this. But this same word is used over here. You know what I mean? It's just like, this is really cool and interesting and I want to learn more about it, but I don't know if I don't have the patience or
it'd be kind of like throwing darts or throwing darts at a board or searching for a needle in a haystack if you just like looked at it randomly. For the equivalent of like a interesting piece on that for the Old Testament portion, at least, The Unseen Realm by Michael Heiser goes through a lot of that because he goes through the original Hebrew, and he also will be highly contextual too, because has a lot of analysis based on the historical era that it was written in and the surrounding cultures and their religions and whatnot. Because actually, a lot of the Old Testament of what God does is actually like a version of the mythology of the surrounding cultures, religious myths. Only when God does it, he both does it for real and he does it more powerfully than their mythical version to basically flex on them and to show that, I'm the true God.
I just love the Elijah and the prophets of Baal, that story. I love that. Maybe he's relieving himself.
Right? Yeah, maybe he's on the bathroom, maybe he's on the toilet.
I love that so much. It's so funny. Like, so great. But that's way down the road. But yeah, not for the podcast, but I just shared in our group chat in Discord just a link to Genesis 22 in the Blue Letter Bible, and if you hit the tools button, if you go there in your personal time, you hit the tools button on the left side of any verse, it'll pull up kind of all the original text it comes in, and then you can look at like commentaries, cross references, tons of different things. So
Nice.
super
Hebrew
good
That's
tool.
really cool.
Hebrew
I'll
looks
try
like
and put a link
Elvish.
to that down in the
It
video
does look like
information.
Elvish.
It looks like Elvish from Lord of the Rings, the written form of
Maybe that's
Hebrew.
where he got it from, his old languages.
Wouldn't be
It could be.
surprised.
So yeah, I think we're getting real close to the hour mark here already. So I think what we'll do is maybe go through Genesis 25,
24.
which is kind of short and sweet here since like half of it is just genealogies again. But we'll read through it quick and see where we land there and do any final discussions and then I'll beg Nick to pray again.
You don't need to beg. I'm good with that.
All right. So yeah, Genesis 25. So Abraham took another wife whose name was Keturah. She bore to him Zimran and Jokshan and Medan and Midian and Ishbak and Shua. And Jokshan became the father of Sheba and Dedan, and the sons of Dedan were Asherim and Letushim and Lemubim. The sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, and Hanok, and Abida and Eldah. All of these were the sons of Keturah. And now Abraham gave all of what he had to Isaac, but to the sons of his concubines, Abraham gave gifts while he was still living and sent them away from his son Isaac eastward to the land of the east. These are all the years of Abraham's life. They lived 175 years. Abraham breathed his last and died at a ripe old age, an old man and satisfied with life, and he was gathered to his people. Then his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the caves of Machpelah in the fields of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, facing Mamre, the field which Abraham purchased from the sons of Heth, where Abraham was buried with his son Sarah his wife. It came about after the death of Abraham that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac lived by Birla Rohoi. I say that different every single time.
One of the times you get it right, I'm sure.
Right. So then we go through the generations of Ishmael, and then we also go through the genealogy of Isaac. And then after we go through that, one of the things that happens with Isaac's son is well, we'll go through Isaac since his is more relevant to the continuing story. And now these are the records of the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham became the father of Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, the father of Bethuel, the Aramean of the Paddan Aram, the sister of Laban and the Aramean, to be his wife. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was barren, and the Lord answered him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. But the children struggled together within her, and she said, "If it is so, why am I this way?" So she went to inquire of the Lord. The Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples will be separated from your body. And one people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger." When her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. Now the first came forth red, all over like hairy garment, and they named him Esau. Afterwards his brother came forth with his hand holding on to Esau's heel, and so his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she gave birth to them. When the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the field, but Jacob was a peaceful man, living in tents. Now, is there any better way to say that your youngest is kind of a lazy layabout? He is a peaceful man that dwelt in the tents.
I always took it as he wasn't a man's man. He liked to kind of
Was he schmoozing all the ladies?
I don't know about that, but
Maybe he was an intellectual.
Well, and as we get farther on, we see like who. Well, it's the next verse. Who loves who more, realistically,
Right.
parent-wise.
He was a
But I
mama's
always
boy.
Yeah, and I always understood that as like he liked to be inside cooking with mom and like doing those sort of things instead of being out and laboring like men
Right.
did at the time.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah.
And he's
All right.
tricksy.
Which
So it
is
says,
kind of the same thing.
yeah. Now Isaac loved Esau because he had a taste for game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. When Jacob had cooked stew, Esau came in from the field and he was famished. And Esau said to Jacob, "Please let me have a swallow of that red stuff there." That I don't like that interpretation. For I am famished. Therefore, his name was called Edom. But Jacob said, "First, sell me your birthright." Esau said, "Behold, I am about to die. So of what use then is the birthright to me?" This all seems very grave. And Jacob said, "First, swear to me." So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank, and rose and went on his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. If there was ever a cheaper way to gain all of your father's possessions, just wait until your brother's really hungry and be like, "No, you can't have any food unless you give me your birthright."
This clearly shows that Esau just didn't have a whole lot of foresight. He was definitely not a forward thinker.
Well, I think this paints a really good picture of how just society in general is, especially currently, and we like focus on our immediate needs now and not 5, 10, however long down the road. It is we need that instant comfort now with I mean that plays into sin and sin nature of like usually you feel pretty good in the moment doing sin, but then after the fact you're like, I shouldn't have done that. Like that's horrible. And then we see in the future chapters, like Esau definitely kicks himself for doing this in the long run.
So for all the things, there's a lot behind this, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. But one of the things that got me set on this journey in the first place, I think, is, well, not in the first place, but something that drove me forward instead of standing still. I think I owe a debt of gratitude to Jordan Peterson, because it was, and there's a lot of debate of whether he's a godly man or whether he isn't, but he says a lot of things that make sense. It was actually a Jordan Peterson video that I watched that basically he went on and he talked at length about instant gratification versus delayed gratification and what it does for a person in a variety of areas in their life, mentally, for their future well-being, so on and so forth. And it caused me to reflect on myself. And I thought back and I went, huh, you know what? He's kind of got a point. Every time that I just like run in headstrong and do what I felt like doing at the very moment, instead of thinking about the ramifications of the future, it always comes back and bites me. Uh, and there's a lot of instances, and I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole, but there's a lot of things in life. If you look at it and you are truly try to be objective and not let your personal feelings or your defense mechanisms kind of gloss over or cover things up, you will, I think you will see that in your own lives and in your own experience as well, is that, there's just certain things that are better for you if you don't pursue instant gratification. And I think that's the norm. What we should expect, probably.
Well, and society pushes us the complete opposite way. It's all about that
Yeah.
instant gratification, that what's the next best thing you can get. I mean, look at what social media is with the reels and all the things. Like it is so there's a slight resurgence in YouTube with longer form content with minimal edits, but the Mr. Beastification of YouTube, which is 10 to 20-minute videos, highly edited, tons of different screen edits and effects and different noises and all the things. And it's all that dopamine hit where that is not really like you don't feel any better. And it's all about drawing you in to continue that loop of going on the doom scrolling for like reels or shorts or things, or just like
Guilty.
consuming. Yeah, well, exactly. I think most of us are, unless you're one of the few that has been able to cut social media out of your life like completely, you know?
Yeah. I for sure will hop on Facebook or YouTube or something when I'm bored. Like I go, like, before bed, I'll go take a shower and I'll be like waiting for my hair to dry and stuff before I actually go to bed, right? So I'll just start doom scrolling. And then the next thing you know, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, really? Like, I sat here for an hour and a half. Oh my goodness, where did all the time?
Yep.
Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I actually stumble across things that are good for me, probably. But most of it is probably not.
Yeah,
It's
for every
just
good thing,
stupid
there's
stuff.
5 to 7 trash things that you had to get through
Right.
or ended up getting sucked into.
Right.
The shorter form content, the Mr. Beastification and like the shorts type of thing also does lead to long-term issues with attention spans and
Yes.
like the ability to focus and concentrate on things too.
Well, and like
Yeah.
even just the use of technology, this is a little off topic from us, but the use of technology, I saw a post while I was on our anniversary trip that this generation that is in school now is actually the first generation that across the board is performing less than their parents were in school. And they're attributing that to the amount of technology that is used in classrooms now.
To be
Like,
fair, I think also COVID lockdowns hurt that a lot too. Because there was like a whole year of school where like everyone's faces were covered up, and that actually provably hurts their development because like if you can't see the face, you can't like properly it leads to basically a form of autism where you can't properly interpret like facial expressions and
yep.
things like
And the
that.
younger you go, the more drastic that was. Like, I saw a thing that was like, pre or newborns, not preborns, newborns into like early infancy. Like, they didn't understand like emotions just in general, like how we have seen in the past because of them having to, or their
They're
parents having
literally
to wear.
stunted.
Yep.
Right. Well, it just makes you wonder, like, were they wearing masks inside their house and stuff? Did they not have to interact with their parents and their
Ugh,
siblings? But
some
then again,
people
I
were
guess the
Some
birth
people
crazy.
did
rate is
that
so
kind
much
of
lower.
stuff.
I
Have you
saw
ever
And the
people
seen
wearing
birth rate
masks
is
people
in
so much.
cars.
exactly, I was about to say exactly that. Have you ever seen a person driving a car by themselves wearing a mask? Some people were
Yeah,
like that.
that's a fair assessment, I guess, of about what 10% of the population or something. I don't know. It's kind of
At
crazy.
least, I'm sure.
But yeah, so like at least with my kids, so my kids are solidly Zoomers. They're 16 and 17 now. And even my oldest, 21, they all spent 2 years basically in COVID. 1 year was basically all remote work, so they were at home the entire time. And
Yep.
the other year was like 50-50. They were going to school and then they had to mask and then then it was all school from home. So it's like, that was a large point in time. Now, I think out of my three kids, I think my youngest is the one that bounced back the best. And then I think my middle child was the next one. And my oldest, I think she's the one that suffered the most because it was like her 16, 17. So like basically her sophomore and junior year. Oh, wait. Yeah. It was in a weird place. I'm trying to remember. Her senior year, we were able to graduate, but we didn't know if we were going to. But I think they lifted mask mandates that year and stuff. So it was kind of a crazy year. Um, yeah, it was really interesting. I felt bad for the people that graduated the prior year. They didn't have a graduation at all,
Yeah.
because yeah, they couldn't even do it outdoors. We did it outdoors, and that's why it was permitted. But that whole
Yeah.
year, she went to school every single day, but there was lots of other people that didn't.
And I think it was overall probably not as bad for them because they were at least in their teenage years, whereas like for like
Right.
the the like preteens, it probably was the worst. Like the younger you were, like Nick said earlier, the worse it was because like your kids already, had all the ability to interpret emotions and facial expressions and
Right. They
things
had the
like that.
building blocks in place already.
Yeah, whereas like they're super young kids, literally they're stunted in that form, and it kind of mimics autism.
Well, yeah, it completely sets you back, not only obviously academically, but like you said, like those social cues and understanding just facial features of like what a smile is when someone, like, you can only read so much from seeing here up. Like,
Right?
your eyes do dictate some things, but not enough.
Yeah.
So it's insane.
Yeah, it just depends on how sociopathic you are. Does your smile reach your eyes or not?
Well, right. If maybe that like unveiled a lot of sociopaths. So like it's
Right.
like I'm
Yeah.
smiling, but they're like glaring. It's like
Right. Yeah. Are you glaring at me? No, this is a
no, I'm
smile.
smiling. This is the best
And
I
they're
can
they're
do.
just baring their teeth. They're not even smiling. They're like,
Oh, that's funny.
but
The other thing I
yeah,
wanted to point out real quick in this chapter,
yeah,
and then we can move on, and it's more not really point out, just an interesting tidbit. They did not have very creative names for Esau and Jacob. If you know what Esau means, it literally just translates to hairy. Like, that is all it translates to. And then Jacob, there's like two different or like definitions of it, but
Yeah,
one of
I've
them
got
is heel
here.
catcher, I believe.
Yeah, the Hebrew word, this is my study Bible. The Hebrew word that means heel sounds similar to the name Jacob. The name
Yeah.
may either mean he who grasps at the heel of another, or he being the Lord, is at his heels in his protector. So it means one of those
Okay.
two.
Okay. And
Yeah,
I
which
also
makes
heard,
sense. He was definitely grasping at the heels of his older brother and
yeah.
succeeded in two
Both
cases.
literally and
He
figuratively.
Yeah. Well, and then I believe, like, obviously, as we get into more chapters, we see just how deceptive Jacob is over his
Yep.
life. And, like, I think that's another term for Jacob as well. And I think it's literally just from his story here. But that's also, like, deceiver is another description of Jacob when looking at it.
He's a sneaky guy later on when he like reunites with Esau, and he's like he's super paranoid that Esau's just gonna murder him on sight. You can kind of get why he's worried about that because it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did
it'd be
kind
a
of
reasonable reaction,
steal his birthright and his blessing and then just noped out.
right?
Yeah.
All right,
Well, and
so
he,
we only did 5 chapters there, but we've been, an hour and 15 minutes in. I think it's probably good to catch it there, and then we'll see if we do maybe another 5 next time or more and
5 to
see how
10.
we do. So much for that 10 per episode.
It's all about the
But
conversation we have, I think.
right, absolutely. Yeah, we're learning, we're growing. And like one thing that's important too is like so there's a couple things that go hand in hand here. Obviously, you have the fellowship when you can just talk about God and just enjoy and revel in it together, right? And then there's also the learning aspect. We all get to learn new things, and sometimes somebody has a different perspective or whatever the case would be. And so that's absolutely healthy too. And it's giving us another opportunity. Nick, I know you're already doing one, but it gives us the opportunity to reread through things. Like for people like me, like I said, I've never read the whole Bible from beginning to end, and it'll probably be a while until we get to the end. But this holds me accountable. It keeps me reading. So there's that for sure. Uh, learning about the Lord is never a bad thing. It's that, by definition, the only good thing that we can do. Well, not the only good thing we can do, but it's one of the few good things that
Most
we can
good.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the main good thing.
right. And so, yeah, with that, Nick, if I could beg you to pray again.
For
Is
sure.
is there anything that we would like to pray about specifically here today? Just a quick thing for me, I guess. I may not have. I think I told Peter. I don't think I discussed it with you, Nick, or made it like public knowledge or anything. So my father had passed away a couple of years ago, and when he passed away, he left a widow, my stepmom, behind. And I kind of told him I'd, try, take care of her as best I can. She recently, I think it's been about 3 weeks ago now. She fell and broke like the top of her femur, like where it sockets into the hip.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was a fracture, thankfully, instead of a full break. But she ended up having surgery and having a couple screws put in. And yeah, so she's been going through rehab, and I'll be going and picking her up on Tuesday and bringing her back home because she wants to go home. So I guess something that I've been praying about lately is that she recovers smoothly and without any trouble, and just that she can regain her mobility and be I think the way that I kind of describe it is, to be able to enjoy the time that she's got left. She's retired. But she spends a lot of time alone and all that kind of stuff. So, anyways, long story made longer. That's one thing that I would like to pray about if we get the opportunity. If there's anybody else we'd like to pray for, that's really the only thing I have to add at this point.
Perfect. Peter, you got anything?
Her name is Linda, by the way.
Linda. Perfect. Thank you.
Kind of on the same similar vein. My mom has dementia, and my dad is taking care of her, and it's pretty rough on him. Just and my church prays for this every week too, but can't hurt to have more people pray about it just
Always.
to help them, and especially dad, since he's taking care of her, and it's a pretty tough toll.
What are their names, if you don't mind me asking?
Dave and Robin. I'm not used to saying their names. It's mom and dad.
Right. For sure. And then and again, like I kind of mentioned in the very beginning, if anybody that comes across this, if there's anything that you want us to pray about, we're more than happy to. Like I said, we're not pastors, we're not You know what I mean? We're just people, but it doesn't hurt to ask. Like it's good for us to communicate our wants and our needs to God. Um, and so like if you want to comment on any of our videos, we'll take a moment and say a prayer included in our prayers. If you don't want to say it on YouTube or whatever platform you're watching this on or listening to, perfectly fine. You don't have to throw your name out there. You can email us and I'll put it in the description, but it's scratch2scripture@gmail.com. It leaves off the because apparently that was a no-go. So scratch2scripture@gmail.com. And
I'm
feel
glad
free
you
to email
mentioned that
us.
too.
Yep. And then I'll try and put that in the description of the video as well so that it's there.
I have one prayer request as well. I have some friends there. Well, the wife's grandpa just passed away today. So just pray for, he was the sole caretaker for his wife. I don't know her name, but his name is Calvin. So just pray for the family and just kind of the peace and comfort with all the things that come with the passing of a loved family member. He at least knew the Lord, so he's home with him. So that's good. But now they have that whole next step of figuring out how they're going to care for grandma who needs a full-time caretaker and all the things, and then obviously
Yeah.
grieving the loss of
Yeah.
grandpa. So
It's definitely a hard thing to being a caretaker for somebody, especially if it's not something you're just walking into it, right? You weren't there for the
yeah,
build up, right? So you don't know, how they react to certain situations. Yeah.
yeah,
I have a healthy respect for the people that give care to people, especially our elderly. It is a big job, and we appreciate everybody that does that because Lord knows I have my hands full with Linda, and she's very high functioning. She can do just about everything on her own, and I have a hard time just, helping her sometimes. So the people that are in the nitty gritty and doing the health, whether it's home health care or the nursing home thing or just thank you from the bottom of my heart because that's something that I could not do.
yeah, for sure.
Same.
So yeah, if we don't have any others, I can definitely, if we're all ready, I can close us in prayer and we can end
Thank
the
you.
episode. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for the blessing of just allowing us to get together and get to share in an hour and a half or so learning about you and just getting to speak with like-minded men about your word and getting a deeper understanding of this glorious Bible that you've given us and your word that you've given us. We just pray that you will continue to help us grow in your understanding of what you want us to know and what you've given us in this writing. And we do pray for all the families that we know, all of our friends and family. And we specifically just lift up Mike's stepmom, Linda, to you. And we just pray for a speedy recovery and just a healthy recovery with the surgery of her femur and just give Mike the strength to continue to help her out in any way possible. Just be that pseudo caretaker in that sense and just help her kind of get through the process of not only healing from surgery but also just dealing with the daily day-to-day ins and outs of life without your spouse and just all the things that come with that and just allow him to continue to minister to her in any ways you see fit for that and all the things there. And we pray for Peter's mom, Robin, who has dementia, and her husband, Dave, who is caring for her. And we just pray that you give Dave the strength to continue to do that and just bless Robin with just peace and calm. And I've heard so many stories of dementia and what that does to people and the struggles that people deal with in that sense. And not only the person with dementia, but also their surrounding friends and family. And we just pray that you will be with them and help them through that struggle as well. We also pray for Sam and Nathan Gonzi and their loss of Grandpa Calvin today. And we thank you that he knows you and that he's at home with you and not in pain and suffering anymore. But leaving loved ones is just tough. And I just pray that you give them peace and comfort in these trying times, all these valleys that they'll be going through here recently and moving forward, and just all the different things that they have to handle now with setting up the funeral and having to clean up any household things and just all those little remembrance things that'll come up over the next days, weeks, and years moving forward. And we pray that you will just continue to bless his wife and watch over her as Calvin was the sole caretaker for her. We just pray that you will just help the family and the immediate family and the extended family kind of band together in this sense, and don't let it drive them away from you in any of these situations. And we just pray that you will draw them closer to you and continue to bless them and watch over them. Again, we just thank you for allowing us to be able to have these meetings, and we just thank you for, I personally thank you for these two men that are willing to take time out of their busy schedules to study and learn more about you, and then get together and have these chats. And we pray that you will just watch over us as our week goes on, and just allow us to continue to share your glorious message that you've given us, and the hope and things that you've given us. We just pray that you give us opportunities to talk about you in our lives moving forward, not only in settings with other believers, but also with people in our community, and maybe people that don't know you. And we just pray that your will be done in all things, Lord, whatever that may be. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right, gentlemen. I appreciate your time. Thank you for spending it with me
Yes.
and reading with me, and uh, and thank you everybody else that's came in and watched and or listened, depending on where the case may be. We appreciate all of you, and like I said, if you guys ever have any questions, concerns, you can comment on our stuff. You can send us an email, any prayer requests as you might have, or any topics you'd like us to cover. Absolutely, let us know. And that's all I got. That's it. That's all.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Have a good night, guys.
Yep. See ya.
God bless.
See ya.